I'd like to welcome you guys to this week's report. Got a lot of good things happening in the fishing department, but we have some bad weather coming our way again here. And while it's looking pretty fishable on Saturday and in some areas Sunday, by midweek next week it's going to be pretty windy. So let's really take a quick look at the windy map here and see what it has to say. As you can see here, it's ready to be blowing at Santa Cruz, Santa Rosa Islands on Saturday and into Saturday afternoon. By Sunday, it's going to be windy at Clemente, and Catalina is probably going to be alright until about midday, and then it's going to get windy as well. Got some real weather coming in on Monday into Wednesday. It's pretty steadily windy throughout the Southern California Bight, and I mean it's like 20 knots of wind in some areas. The beach looks okay, but even the tuna grounds get quite a bit of wind on them down in San Diego. Good news is it looks like it's going to clear up again into the weekend. So, but I mean all this wind we've had hasn't really hurt the fishing too much, so I really doubt it's going to have a big impact on it this time as well, other than just inconveniencing us in the days where we cannot fish. So let's head out and see what's happening up at the Channel Islands. They're still getting some good sea bass and some nice halibut for the boats that are fishing both Rosa and Santa Cruz Island. Rosa, weather permitting, getting some nice fish. These fish are being caught on squid, some on fin bait, and also on artificial lures like that fluke I talked about last week. The full day boats like the Aloha Spirit are still getting in on them pretty much regularly. There's overnight trips and a lot of the charters and stuff like that are getting them too. If you're interested in getting in on that action, I would check out Ventura Sport Fishing or Channel Island Sport Fishing and see if they have any trips available. Again, this week the wind is really going to kill you up there. There's heading down to San Clemente Island. The Yellowtail Bight is still happening over there in the squid grounds. There are a lot of fish there. They're not always catching a lot because they're bigger fish, but the Thunderbird, Jeff Markland shot a little video of some fish that were up puddling around his boat the other day, and I'll show you that now. Yeah, those are nice sized fish back there. You know, they're getting 25, 30 pounders. Some fish pushing 40 pounds. There's a little bit of fish on the front side of the island as well, along with bonita. And that fishing's pretty good. Haven't really heard any of the bass guys midweek here. I know that over the weekend some of the guys fishing the CCA tournament made the run to Clemente. Looks like they had pretty good bass fishing. But other than that, nothing really new happening over there. Kathleen is kind of status quo. Sport boats are starting to get a few more yellows that are actually coming up eating jigs and stuff like that. So the Pursuit got one on Thursday on the jig. Other than that, bass, barracuda, bonita, stuff like that. But not too many barracuda, but they're getting a few. That guy's fishing rockfish. I'm going to skip all the coastal stuff this week because I have a lot to talk about with tuna fishing. The fishing down in the tuna grounds is pretty incredible right now. I know that the sport boats have just been killing them at night still. Pretty wide open fishing, easy limits for most of those trips. The San Diego yesterday had just an amazing trip. I think they had 24 fish from in the 130 to 170 pound range for their full day trip, which is they reported on Instagram as the best trip they've ever had on a boat. Got some video of that I can show you here. These guys all hooked up. It's pretty incredible fishing. There's also some bigger fish being caught on the flying fish and the imitation flying fish down below the area where the fleet's fishing for the most part. They're getting fish up to 250 pounds down there. And there are bigger fish, like, you know, as you can see by the scores of the other boats being caught throughout the area. Speaking of the area, I fished yesterday down there. Well, let me back up. I fished Saturday. I took a look at the water that was just above the border. It looked very similar to the stuff the fish are in down below. But I ran to 181 and 43 all the way down to the corner, never saw a tuna. Lots of dolphin, nothing else to go with it. A lot of bait, so it could happen up here any time. It's just not happening yet. I don't think this wind's going to help a whole lot. But so yesterday, Wednesday, I ran down. I launched out of San Diego, ran down, fished a 371 down to the Hidden and back, and saw a few spots of bluefin early in the 371, and spots are really big bonita. You know, 12, 13 pounders. They were biting poppers and jigs. The bonita were not the tuna, and then. Headed down towards the Hidden, and there's a lot of tuna down there, but they're keyed in on a really small bait. And I mean, this is no Seabass bait, call it rice. These are those lazy fish that just come slurping this stuff. They'll swim right by your boat and not care. We were finally able to trick a couple bites, a couple of them biting poppers. I got a little bit of video to show you about that in a bit. But it's a lot more show than go down there. And, you know, in the afternoon on the way home, I drove through 15 miles of scattered fish and birds and everything else that weren't even worth stopping on, because we'd stopped on 40 or 50 spots already, probably, maybe 30 spots, I don't know. But we stopped on a lot of spots of fish that were up for 2 bites on a popper. And the popper we got them on was this little Yozuri. I don't even know what the number is. It's about maybe a 5-inch, I don't know. It's about a little bit shorter than an iPhone 8. Or 10 or whatever it is, in kind of a clear anchovy pattern. That worked, and these poppers, I normally fish for a pull a subwalker, but when these fish are acting this way and just slurping up that tiny bait, it seems like a popper is the way to go to get the bites. We tried a lot of different lures, but that's the only thing they bit. Again, I have some videos showing what we're doing here, but before I get into that, one of the things I don't like about fishing out of San Diego for tuna is there's a lot of boats out, and I normally try and stay away from that, but there was really nowhere else to go today or yesterday. And while I managed to drive away from other boats quite a few times, if you're someone that's going out tuna fishing on your own boat and aren't sure what to do, I have some advice for you, and that is to not look for other boats. And I had several boats yesterday that did the same exact pattern to me that boats do all the time. And I have a plain white boat. I'm not a wrap boat. For all these guys, though, I don't know anything more than they do. Yet they follow me around because I'm actually stopping, glassing, running, and casting. So if you're a boat who goes out and you see other boats fishing, you go, I'm going to go fish by them or do what they're doing. The way these fish acted yesterday, if you were, you know, I'm running on these things, I'm glassing them, I'm running on them, I'm getting 1 or 2 casts and these fish sink out. What the guys that were following me around were doing was pulling up to me a minute later and then making casts as I'm driving away. And it didn't really inconvenience me, because by the time they got there, those fish were down anyway. Their chances of catching anything are so slim in that way. So if you're out there and you're not sure what to do, and you see another boat fishing in a certain way, be it running and gunning on stuff or whatever, instead of following them, try and see what they're doing, try and figure out what they're looking at, and then go do that yourself somewhere else. You're going to catch a lot more fish doing that. And another big thing is, don't just sit there and drift in the middle of nowhere and stop on nothing and drift for extended periods of time. It's a huge ocean, and the chances of fish swimming under you are pretty slim. So I see guys that are like, okay, there's some birds here, I'm going to put some baits out. I'm watching these guys, you know, in the binoculars all day doing this stuff, and their guys stop, they put baits out, and they sit there for an hour or 45 minutes with these baits out. The chance of a fish swimming by and seeing that is like zero. So you need to go out and find some stuff and actually do stuff if you want to catch tuna. And you're not going to catch tuna going to the, you know, the 371 sitting right on the mark for the high spot that you got from on your chart. None of the fish that I saw yesterday were associated directly with banks. The fish were from the bottom edge of the 371 to the inside middle edge of the Hidden, but not on either of the banks. They were in between. So you need to learn to read that. And it was basically looking for birds. Terns and mostly shearwaters were the key to finding biting fish. But you should, if you don't already have them, get yourself some stabilized binoculars. Fuji makes them. The Techno Stabbies are not too expensive. Well, yeah, they are pretty expensive, but they're cheaper than spending $400 on fuel and following other boats around trying to get on a fish that they found. Anyway, here's a little bit of video from yesterday's trip, and it kind of explains what we were looking at down there. If you're heading out soon and the fish are just scattered around, try and find shear waters. For whatever reason, these shear waters, diving on bait fish, get the tuna to stay around and boil more. And I don't know if they see the surface feeding activity or what, but that was absolutely the key to finding biting fish yesterday. If there were no shear waters around, there were no bites. Not that there were that many bites anyway. But alright, this is pretty much how these fish were acting all day yesterday. We'd have these small spots of bluefin coming up, feeding on bait. All the ones that stuck around for more than a few seconds had shear waters on them, like these do here. I think that the shear waters actually get these fish to compete a little bit more and feed a little bit more readily than they do when they're just on their own micro bait. If you just pull up on turns with fish on them, you might get a cast and they're gone, but once the shear waters get on them, they seem to stick around a little longer. There's this fish rolling around lazily. You really need binoculars to find this stuff, especially in a great morning. Stabilized binoculars. You got to find them far, and you might see a turn or two or a couple of shear waters low to the water. You can see the fish are rolling around here. These shear waters are still on them. Matt's fishing a Seville bait, and I'm fishing a popper, just a Yozuri smaller popper. Try and cast where the birds are as opposed to seeing the boils. By the time you see a boil, that fish can be gone anywhere, and I end up getting bit on this cast, I think. Yeah, there we go. But that's basically it. It's a pretty short window before these fish take off. But if you do it right, you catch a few fish.
That was cool. Okay,
I ended up losing that fish there, but I caught another one later today. And this is kind of once the sun came out. This gives you a better idea of what's happening here with these spots. So I found a spot through the binoculars, ran on it maybe a half mile or something, and there was no fish up when I first saw the spot. I just saw the shear waters and the turns. As I pulled up, things got active here, and as you can see, there's some boiling fish, and they'll boil around a bit, real tight to those shear waters, and you can get a few casts on them. Most spots don't bite. We had 2 bites out of maybe 30 or 40 spots, but like I said, these things are keyed in on just absolute rice, like half-inch, 1-inch baits. As you can see, they're still boiling around. They got no fear of the boat if you cruise them slow. I mean, we end up swimming right under the bow. But as long as those shear waters are diving, there's fish around. You can see them just rolling around real slow and lazy. They didn't bite anything on this stop here. I want to use this as an example of when to say when. You see those shear waters taking off? That means the tuna are gone. Once those birds fly out, forget about it. It's over. Just better off just heading off to the next one because they're out of here. But things are looking good, and hopefully this weather doesn't kill us, and we'll see you next week.